Okay, so hi everybody. This is 2002 called. They want their RRD tool shell scripts back, and I'm Dave Josephsen. Once again, I'm going to apologize for the title. Like I said, I was punchy that day, I guess, and I'm not sure what I was mad at, but it definitely wasn't you guys. And this one I don't really have an excuse for, so I decided that I was going to change its name spontaneously to A Brief History of Time Series Data Visualization Architectures, which is more, it's wordier and it sounds kind of boring. And I actually did, I sat down to try to make these slides, and I discovered that there's an awful lot of stuff I want to talk to you guys about today. And there was no way that I was going to be able to like timeline it, like, you know, we start here, end there, and, you know, here's everything that happened. And really, the point of the talk is not to give you the history of time series visualization. It's more to express to you that there's a lot of ways to skin this cat nowadays. And what I've observed or been observing is that we all seem to be doing it the same way. And I just mean Nagios community people in general. We all seem to be kind of doing the same thing with the same tools, and there are actually some really cool tools out there, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew they were there. So I'm changing the name of this talk a third time, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you 3 anecdotes or scenarios, if we want to be more official, I guess. And I thought I'll tell you, 3 stories about 3 different sysadmin, and I will sort of accentuate these scenarios in such a way as to make them very different from each other. And so you can see like where an admin might choose one tool over another, or like what sorts of situations would make people choose these things. And I thought it would be really fun if I used some of my friends to do this. So this is what sysadmin look like in Texas. Well, actually, that's not fair. This guy in the middle is Danish. So he lives and works in Denmark, and we see him at conferences every year or so. And that's Per. So the outside 2 are what sysadmin look like in Texas, and in the middle there, that's what happens when Danish people hang out with Texans for too long. So the only problem here is that my friends don't actually match up to the scenario concept, right? Like they don't have jobs that are wildly different from each other. They all pretty much do the same thing, except one of them does it like 6,000 miles away. So I'm basically making up lies about my friends, and since I feel bad about that, I thought I would start each one of these scenarios with an actual story about my friends, and that way, well, I think they'd want me to. So I'm going to start out with Jer, and Jer is pretty much doing what most of us, I think, are doing today. This will be a pretty quick one. The true story I want to tell you about Jer, and you have to look at the expression on his face when I tell you this story, because it's totally the expression he carries with him everywhere. I mean, that's like when he proposed to his wife, that's totally the expression he had on his face. And so the story I want to tell you is like this epic like battle of wits he had. Well, from his perspective, it wasn't a battle of wits. It was more like being asked the same stupid question over and over and over again and always giving the same answer, which was no. But he worked for a very large company that had a problem. The problem was that their single sign-on product didn't work. And nobody can make it work, and all the king's horses and all the king's men. And so they came around to figuring out, like, who are we going to fire over this? Like, who do we like the least? And, look at Jer. You know what I mean? Like, look at him. So they're like, yeah, well, we'll give it to Jeremy. And then when he can't make it work, we'll fire him, and then everybody will be cool. And so they drop this thing on Jer, and not only does he have it working the very next day, he's formed, like, rough coalitions between, like, all of the various groups that, were required to get single sign-on working. And, they all love him to the extent that, like, he literally has, like, a desk in their area that he can sit at whenever he wants. And it's, it's all just working fine. But it is kind of a house of cards. It's, it's sort of an intricate and delicate sort of solution. And Jer is pretty much the only one who knows how it works, and he's the only one with access. And this kind of ran afoul of the security manager at the time, who was sort of very excited to be getting access to this, single sign-on solution. At which point Jeremy said no. Just like that. See him? No. Can you see him? And so, and the security manager escalated and escalated and escalated it, and it, like every couple months, Jer would be pulled into these meetings with all of these CIOs and VPs and, whatnot. And they would be like, hey, we're here because, security manager needs access to that single sign-on solution. And Jer's like, no. And it went on for years. I mean, it literally went on for years until one day, Jer became an employee of the security manager, actually joined the security team, went from like web to security. And now, it's the day of reckoning, right? And this security manager is like, sits him down in the office on his like very first meeting, very first day, and is like, so, gonna need access to that single sign-on solution. No. And yeah, totally didn't give it to him. I love that guy. He's so awesome. Anyway, so here's the scenario I made up for Jer. Jer is one of 3 sysadmin at Suit Corp. I wrote these down, by the way, so that I wouldn't forget them. He's a sysadmin at Suit Corp, a Fortune 500 style company with less than 5,000 servers. His environment is all on site in a 1-story or a 9-story office building. Sorry, consists of a hodgepodge of Windows AIX and a few Linux boxes here and there. He's been using Nagios to monitor system and service availability and is monitoring fewer than 20,000 services on a beefy 2U system. The Suit Corp CIO, who recently moved casual Friday to Tuesday, just to see if anybody reads his email, gave Jer a healthy stipend to replace his monitoring system because he read in the current issue of CIO magazine that grown-up monitoring systems always have integrated time series visualization. So Jer's not worried about it. He's sitting there, sitting pretty. He has a healthy budget with which he bought like a 3U system. He's running about a minute and a half per 1,000 hosts. So his polling interval is up about 6-7 minutes, maybe 8 minutes, right? Polling interval. And what he wants to do is he just wants to add time series visualization. So he's going to do probably what about 90% of the people in this room have already done. He's going to make his decision between Nagios Graph and PNP. And he's going to use Nagios. He's going to use the performance data hooks in Nagios. He's going to send them to Nagios Graph, which is a Perl script. It's sort of arbitrary. PNP, Nagios Graph. It's like there's very little difference between the two of them. I think they're both in Perl. I'm not sure PNP is. Is PNP for Perl? Is it? Yeah. So they're both Perl scripts. Nagios Graph, maybe he chooses Nagios Graph because PNP doesn't support plugins that don't have performance data, and he doesn't want to write wrappers for his plugins. But it's really not a big deal either way. So NG pushes to RRD tool, and then all Jer has to worry about is how he's going to present it. He can use the built-in Nagios Graph interface, or he can get something external like Draw, which will let him take those graphs and maybe make his own interface with them. And then the clients come to his interface and they read them. And this is I think pretty much where we all are. I even put ho-hum in the slide, like, isn't this boring? We all know this, right? Do we all know this, by the way? We all pretty much here? More or less. This is pair. And I love this picture of pair because it's like the anti-pair. It's completely opposite of pair. And what he's brandishing at you there is a fiberglass reinforced nylon shank, which the last time we were at Lisa, it happened to be Pair's birthday. And you may not know this, but in Denmark, knives have become illegal. So the Danish are like literally not allowed to have pocket knives, and like if you went to IKEA, sorry, that's racist. No, I'm just kidding. If you went to like the department store and you bought some steak knives and you took them home and you like get caught like on the way home with your steak knives, it could be like a problem for you, which we Texans think is hilarious. We were actually issued Bowie knives in 3rd grade, so clearly we thought what Pair needed for his birthday was a fiberglass reinforced nylon shiv. And these are great. They go right past metal detectors, or so I hear. And they work just as well as real shivs, or so I hear. We gave that to him and challenged him with smuggling it into his home country, which he did. He totally did, by the way. Love that guy. So this is him cracking up at having unwrapped the shiv and then showing us his inner psychopath. Anyway, so the scenario for Pair is that he is a Danish sysadmin working in Austria for Singularity.gov, where an international group of super scientists compete to destroy the universe by colliding particles into each other at high speeds, in the hope that they will create an antimatter explosion, or failing that, a large enough singularity to get things going in the right direction. Pair is the sole sysadmin for 80,000 computer nodes, organized into 80 clusters of 1,000 nodes each, and this is made possible by the prodigious use of automation, a configuration management system, and the fact that all nodes are exactly the same because they all work in parallel to form one big supercomputer, created for a single very specific purpose, particle collision analysis. Per is in a bad spot. He's working in hardcore academia